takes. All right, Larson, it's time for more hot takes. Are you ready for the most scintillating one from Steve here?
Not particularly, no.
Good, I'm glad you are. My hot take is the real World's Championship is the greatest unresolved pro wrestling storyline in history.
You know the best way to resolve it?
Yeah.
Give it to Jack Perry.
Do you think the Scapegoat Mobile smells funky?
You know, see, I imagine it's an older vehicle, so it's
all right.
You know, it's got the smells accumulated through a lifetime of hard living on the roads of America. You know?
Think Anna Jay's just back there farting the whole time?
I'm not going to speculate on that. None of my business. Scared Shadow. The New Day should be broken up. They've had a great 10-year run, but they don't feel the same without Big E. It's like watching the Three Stooges, but with only two of them.
Yeah, I agree with this. I think they should have broke up I think they should have broke up before Big E got injured. I think they should have broke up a long time ago. Larson, here's the thing about pro wrestling. This is the thing about pro wrestling. You need stories. Things have to advance. They have to progress. People have to break up. They have to come back together. I mean, what act in their rightful mind would ever last 10 years, let alone like 15?
You know what I hear from you? A bunch of negativity. You got to believe. You got to live the power of positivity. The bonds of friendship. Something that we can attest to. Stronger than just about anything.
I know. I was alluding to you and I, buddy.
Oh, gosh. Well, I can take a cue.
No. I need you. Come back, bread and butter. Come back, bread and butter. I need you. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think, dude, listen, if you look at what they've been able to do, match quality aside at WrestleMania with, for example, the Usos and in general, you know, like the Bloodline, I think the deeper the relationships, the more drama can be mined from those. And if you look at where like the Usos are right now, just in general, over the past 2 years, they've been part of the most compelling story in pro wrestling. And you look at where the New Day's at, and granted, you know, I understand that Big E's injury changed things. And I like that they're playing with this idea of cross coming between them. But like, I feel like when Big E had his title run, they should have just been like, okay, listen, we're all going to do our own thing. We can still be friends even, but we got to go and explore our own thing. And then you set up potentials for feuds that could happen between them and explore their relationship. It doesn't have to be like a note for note, you know, Uso bloodline type thing. But I think there was so much storyline potential left on the table when it came to the New Day that's never been explored and now won't ever be explored. So yeah, I kind of feel like they should have broken up a long time ago. At this point, I don't know. They're a tag team in a company that really doesn't focus much on tag teams. I don't know that breaking up now would be a good idea.
That's more of an issue than them breaking up or not, is the lack of focus or care and creative side when it comes to the tag divisions on Raw and SmackDown. That's more of an issue right now than whether they should break up or not, because you can still tell stories with them as a team. Will they necessarily be as potentially intriguing as you're saying if it were some tension alluding to a breakup, even just parting the ways? I don't know. That's up for debate. This is obviously subjective, but there's still stories you could tell with the New Day, and they're just not doing it. Right now, that's more the issue about. I kind of feel like at this juncture, well, just break them up. Well, that's a lack of inspiration in terms of actually telling stories in your tag division.
But okay, here's the thing though. Like, if this was under Vince, I would agree with that. And I'm not saying just break them up. I'm saying, what are the best stories you can get out of that particular act? What will
Apparently
give them...
Karrion Kross trying to break them up right now, Steve.
What can give them the most, like, compelling stuff to do on TV?
Apparently it's Karrion Kross trying to break them up, Steve.
Oh, man. I like this one from Die Hard Homer. It says, the DDT being a transition is a bigger travesty than the super kick, as a Shawn Michaels sweet chin music guy. Do you agree with this one?
You know, the moves of wrestling evolve. Mm-hmm. You know, and people invent new moves. Mm-hmm. And with that, I think the idea is the moves of years past, not as powerful as they used to be compared to new moves.
Right.
It's one thing to grab someone by their neck and drop them on their head. They still have their arms to brace them. Contrast that with, say, package pile driver, where the person taking it has no way to brace the impact.
Can't even do a package pile.
Obviously, package pile driver is more devastating than a DDT.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm fine with moves that used to be finishers becoming signatures or standard moves because the world of pro wrestling has evolved over the last 40 years, and how people deliver said moves have changed.
All right, man. We'll take that to its logical conclusion. What is then going to replace the package pile driver? And then the package pile driver ends up being a normal move.
Well, see, here's the thing, Steve. You have 1, 2, 3 turnbuckles.
Don't say my name, please.
You have 1, 2, 3 turnbuckles.
Oh God!
So package pile driver.
Yeah, the next decade from the second rope.
Well, first you got to go the first rope.
Okay.
It's got to be iterations, obviously. You can't just go right to the
Not
third.
a lot of moves kick off from the bottom rope there, man.
Innovation.
Bottom turnbuckle. Yeah.
Innovation.
All
Package
right.
pile
And then
driver off the
eventually,
first turnbuckle.
in 2064, the normal move at that point is going to be, oh man, we're 3 minutes deep into the match. This guy's giving him a package pile driver from the top turnbuckle.
You got it. That's the way wrestling evolves.
I'll never forget when we saw the regular pile driver from like the top second rope, I think it was.
Yeah, lost our
Naito.
minds. Yeah, it was Naito and Kota Ibushi, wasn't it?
That was pretty rad.
It was pretty awesome.
That was pretty great.
No, I mean, seriously, it's like people take what happened in the past and they're like, oh, we can evolve from this. And so the moves that were finishers in the past, they're just kind of standard moves now. I mean, I understand the idea that a move like a DDT where you're dropping somebody on their head, that should be a pretty impactful move. And for some people, it still is. For some people, it's their finisher. And the idea that they know how to deliver that move better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So well, in fact, they can finish a match with it. You know, whereas some people may employ the move, but don't exactly know how to put the right amount of oomph on it to finish the match. That's just how I look at it.
All right. Well, that's definitely one point of view, and I don't necessarily even disagree with it. Taking the actual question though, in terms of which one seems more devastating, Sweet Chin Music, aka a standard sidekick, or the DDT, Jake Roberts DDT, where you're dropping a guy in his head.
I mean,
An even flow DDT.
I'll say this. There's what's booked to be most devastating in the world of pro wrestling, as opposed to in an actual fight, what would be more devastating. And
like
granted, dropping
DDT
someone on their head,
probably.
maybe, but that feels like it's hard to get off in a real fight, as opposed to
No, what you do is
a
you
kick out of nowhere.
You just kick him in the gut, then they'll bend over.
It doesn't work that way, man.
How many fights have you been in, Larson?
Probably more than you.
What? When are you having these fights, man?
I had an older brother.
Oh, okay, good point. So did you ever try to kick him in the gut, drop him with the DDT?
No, that's
What about a
foolishness.
glorious DDT?
Foolishness.
Get him right there. Do this shit.
Oh, that's foolishness. Sweet Chin Music, kick to the head. See, that's something I can just deliver. No setup. Bang, done.
I mean, the thing about the super kick is that it's so easy to do in succession. Seemingly watching the wrestlers. I'm not saying I could do it. I'm saying like watching them just do bang, 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 as opposed to kicking a guy in his gut. He bends over for you,
That's what I'm
and
telling
then
you.
you drop him. So yeah, give me the even flow DDT. I think I'm not gonna say it's a travesty because I kind of feel like where you're coming from. I understand, and I probably agree with that. Life progresses. The power bomb bugs me more than both of these though, because especially the last ride. Like some people will just bust out a last ride during a match, and I'm like, well, that should be a finisher right there.
Well, here's the thing.
How
It's-
high up you're going.
So many of the people doing last rides these days are probably around 6 feet tall. Compare that to The Undertaker. He was 6'9".
That's a good point.
That's
That
much higher.
Extra 9 inches right
That
there.
means a lot. And that's not even counting the length of his arms, which are going to be longer than someone who's 6 feet tall. So you're talking maybe a legit 7 feet.
That extra 9 inches like you're escaping Earth's gravity. But then when you come
So I'm
back
telling
down,
you. So you got to think about
the slingshot effect.
You got to think about the mechanics of it.
Yeah, man, exactly. You guys aren't thinking on the quantum level. Diabetic Man says, as much as Braun Breaker, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't heart this one, but we'll do it anyways. No,
right.
I missed it. Oh, here it is. As much as Braun Breaker deserves a singles push he's currently getting, there'll always be part of me that misses and wishes the Wolf Dogs would have stayed together on main roster. I'm going to say, nah. I really like what they're doing with Braun Breaker right now.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with them breaking up now that we see what they got Braun doing. I think this is Braden Loader.
Yeah.
Finn Balor should win Money in the Bank and be the one to beat Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that.
I actually like that a lot, and I think that given that Finn Balor just signed a big money deal, I wouldn't be shocked if like he became the most prominent member of the Judgment Day.
Entirely possible.
That is a man.
He's already got a chip on his shoulder, but Priest not wanting to do the tag thing anymore. This one's from Dave. Says, with very few exceptions, I don't enjoy a lot of the wrestling-related content anymore.
Yeah, hard at this one.
Yeah, it really feels like a lot of people are doing it as a chore now, not because they love it. And it's way too focused on the negatives, when if you look at the right places, it's as good as it's been in my lifetime. It's spoiler, I'm old. AF. I get that negativity gets clicks, but it just exhausts me. It feels like every day there's another issue or problem somewhere, so I've mostly stopped watching any news.
Well, thanks for the comment. We appreciate it. You know, man, negativity is always led to clicks. It's always been a selling point. I get bored with it even when we, start nitpicking at AEW. Because that's the thing these days. Back when WWE was like the only thing and it was bad, that was awful. Like, that was not fun to, look, at the end of the day, our job is, we're pretty lucky to have this job.
Oh, yeah.
But as we've noticed recently, or as I definitely have noticed recently, when we get to talk about well plotted out storylines in pro wrestling, I'm at my happiest, and I think our content is best when we get to talk about that kind of stuff, as opposed to, man, this week's episode of blah, blah, blah sucked. What could they do to be better?
Here's the thing. It's not so much that, because even back when we were reviewing WWE programming when it was not good.
Yeah.
This is after we stopped doing the Raw reviews right after Raw.
Yeah.
At least when it's crap, there's things you can kind of laugh about,
Yeah, the biggest sin is being boring.
And that's the issue with AEW when they're not clicking on all cylinders, is that it's fine. It's just fine. It's just kind of mediocre. And we can sit there and critique, as we have, probably, well, far more than we need to, what we think is worth criticism or criticizing. But it's not like... It's not bad enough where we can just laugh about it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Because it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And it's not good enough for the most part. There's episodes of Dynamite that I watch. I'm like, oh, man, this is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. It's just really... Dynamite's an uneven show.
Yeah.
And when it's good, I feel like we give it credit where it's due.
Absolutely, 1,000%.
And again, it's never bad, or hardly ever bad, except for the Jericho stuff.
Yeah.
So
the worst thing you could be is boring.
It's just kind of mid.
And that's when it just becomes infuriating, because I get bored listening to myself talk about it. But we've decided as a business to cover the product week in and week out.
Yeah.
And it's not like we can just like, oh, Dynamite was boring this week, let's skip it, because we have an audience that, is supporting us and they expect those certain things. If a sports team is bad, that market's sports radio, local sports radio, can't stop talking about it.
And talk about negative. You want to hear people going negative on a topic. Local sports radio if the team's awful. Every other day they're calling for someone to be fired.
Speaking of which, Eddie ZDI says The Miz was actually the perfect mentor for Daniel Bryan on Tough Enough. I don't know why I said speaking of which. He said there was no one on the roster who could teach Bryan to be a better wrestler.
All right.
And no one better to teach him. Hold on, don't cut off Eddie here, Larson. And no one better to teach him to be a WWE
All right.
god.
The second point is actually a somewhat valid point to discuss. The first point, no universe can The Miz teach Daniel Bryan how to be a better wrestler. It's the other way around. Daniel Bryan would teach The Miz how to be a better wrestler. In fact, look how much Daniel Bryan's offense The Miz has incorporated into his own ever since they revisited that feud after Daniel Bryan came back from his concussion issues.
That might be a top 5 unresolved feud of all time.
Yes.
That might actually be there.
They had like one match and that was it.
I know. That could have been a high-level Mania match.
I know.
Like a big-time Mania match. And they didn't go there. It's infuriating how many drop balls there were.
You got that right.
But no, I agree with you 1,000%. Dude, nobody in, what year was Tough Enough, like 2009?
2010, I think.
Okay.
9 or 10, yeah.
2009, 2010. In 2009, 2010, Bryan Danielson was still a far better wrestler than The Miz. I don't know how much he actually really added to his arsenal in the 10 years, 12 years he was in WWE.
You look at his Ring of Honor work.
Yeah.
It's mostly there.
It is.
It's mostly
Absolutely
there.
It is. Yeah.
So-
No, in terms of being a wrestler, no.
No.
In terms of like understanding what WWE wants from their television,
Then yes.
sure. Here's a prediction.
Sure.
From Volk. Kapla. Says WWE will buy TNA and merge it with NXT on the CW. You know, I will say this. I will 1,000% say this. If you put NXT and NXT's production team in the type of venues that TNA has been running, only doll it up a little bit more because their little cheesy gateway is kind of, well, it's cheesy. But like, I like that a lot more than I like NXT's venue.
Yeah, the Performance Center as a venue is not very good.
But I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know about this, but I think it'd be pretty damn cool. And if you want the ratings, if you want to go to the CW, you merge the two brands. You already got some decent heavy hitters there in TNA and some really fun talent over there. Plus, you know, what they're doing with NXT, you merge those two together. I don't know, man. I think that'd be pretty awesome. I mean, there'd be some issues in terms of like making sure everybody gets TV time.
Yeah, that would be a serious issue potentially, because you got 2-hour shows you're merging.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I don't
Cream,
like.
you know what? You know though, the cream rises to the top, Larson. Ooh, yeah.
So you're saying Ed Edwards is going to be the cornerstone of the whole thing?
Yeah, basically, that's what you really want to do.
They're going to reform Honor No More somehow.
Say, listen, CW. I know you might be thinking, oh, we got Trick Williams, we got Jordan Grace. Nah. This is our number one guy.
Yeah,
Eddie Edwards, isn't he like 43?
it's veteran experience.
Veteran experience.
Knows the ins and outs of the business.
Yeah.
Joseph Freeman says, I would take 2 hours straight. Can't read. I would take 2 hours of straight storylines over 2 hours of straight wrestling, no matter how good a match is. It has to be, if it has no build or meaning, I just end up thinking, great. But what have we got out of that? I can acknowledge it being great technically, but it just does nothing for me.
All right. Well, you're in luck. There's a lot of things that are simply 2 hours of stories with no wrestling.
Basically everything else on TV.
They're called movies or everything else on television. I take the point, though.
Yeah.
Stories and character. I'm a big fan of those things as well. You infuse them in with the pro wrestling and boom, you got something good. AJ Daniels says Jerry Lawler and Roddy Piper are more important than Hulk Hogan as far as bringing mainstream attention to wrestling. Lawler slapping Andy Kaufman was a big deal. Also, Piper kicking Cyndi Lauper is what kicked everything off for WrestleMania. Okay, so I'm going to strike the Jerry Lawler thing out of there. Not because I don't like Lawler. I think Lawler in Memphis was actually really fucking cool. That being said, I don't know how much of the pop culture zeitgeist he really captured beyond like a relatively niche crowd with the Kaufman stuff. I mean, I don't think it was a big
they were on
deal.
Letterman.
Yeah, I know. That's what I know exactly. they weren't on Carson. If he did it on Carson, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, you have a good point here.
Was Hulk Hogan ever on Carson?
I don't know. Probably wouldn't surprise us. Like, I mean, look, I will say this: McMahon orchestrating Hogan and Mr. T on Saturday Night Live, I thought was a really big deal. I don't know what the Saturday Night Live zeitgeist was of the time.
Oh, we're talking mid '80s. I don't know. Were those the Joe Piscopo years?
Oh, dude, you're right. Yeah, I think Eddie Murphy was gone by then. What year was it? 85?
85, yeah.
85. I think they were just getting back to the Lorne Michael. It was early 85. That might have been the last season of like when it was bad. Like they didn't have Bill Murray, they had Brian Doyle Murray.
Yeah, Brian Doyle Murray.
That's a good point. They had Gilbert Gottfried on their show.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. was a member of the cast for a little bit.
I think that was I think that was the 85-86 season.
Gotcha.
I think. Anyways, they had John Lovitz.
Gustavo here says Ospreay's finisher should be the Blade Runner because he runs at his opponent. Jay White's finisher should be the Hidden Blade because he's a switchblade. But here's the thing: Ospreay's is a Hidden Blade because his packaging, so much of it is based around what? Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
And what did the Assassin's Creed have? They got the blade that comes out of the sleeve.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
hidden
yeah.
until they.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess there's a motion like this where.
Yeah. I always like playing the Assassin's Creed game set in the Revolutionary War because it was glitchy as shit.
It was super glitchy.
You'd be riding on a horse with Paul Revere and his face would just disappear all of a sudden.
It would. It was really glitchy. Remember that time that you were doing a mission and you got stuck?
Yeah, dude.
You couldn't undo it.
I was on the other side of the river. I couldn't get across the river.
The other side of the river.
I like this one. We can end on this one because it references those. No. We're going to end on the Rob Observer.
Yeah, we're going to end on that one.
But we'll talk about this one because it references those other guys. Jayco Sabab says 90% of online wrestling fans don't take Dave Meltzer seriously and only listen for the comedy of his poor grammar, rambles, and baffling takes. I'm going to counter with this, Jayco. You do take him seriously because otherwise you wouldn't be putting this in our hot takes thread. I got somebody asked me this on WrestleJuice. People need to stop legitimizing Dave Meltzer. Well, then stop talking about him.
Yeah.
He's living rent free in your head, man.
Yeah, no.
So I disagree. I actually disagree with this. I think that people are going to pay the people who are paying $10 a month for the Observer newsletter.
And there's plenty of them.
And there's plenty of them. I think they take them very seriously because they're basically giving them Hulu money.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Rob Observer here, we'll end on this one, says you shouldn't have to wait 14 months to crown your most over act with the World Championship.
I agree. They shouldn't have taken so long with Swerve Strickland to put that title on him.
Yeah, that's true.
So Rob agrees with us. Swerve Strickland should be world champion for a very long time.
Yeah.
Ospreay will be fine. Am I right? Am I right, bruv?
Correct.
Anyways, that's going to do it for Hot Takes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, the notify bell, to make sure that you get the little thread, the community thread, where we ask for hot takes next time.
It's an important part of the whole process.
It's a very important part of the process. Help support Friendo Club by going to patreon.com/Steven Larson or clicking join at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Access to bonus episodes, question threads for the Going In Raw podcast, and entry to our monthly wrestling predictions challenges. Join the Friendo Club today.